Pixar's Turning Red debuted on Disney Plus just last weekend, and it's, well, awesome. It's a lot of fun, it's got great themes at its core, the characters are lovable, the big cuddly red panda is big and cuddly. What more really could you want? So it's no surprise that when a negative review for the movie went viral in advance of its release, its virality was largely due to people dunking on its admittedly pretty terrible central point. The reviewer constantly saying, "I am not the audience for this movie." A premise that, yes, suggests the adult male reviewer finds it easier to relate to a clownfish than to a teenage girl. Another human being. But there was a point in that review that stuck with me, and that was his strange assertion that Turning Red steals its plot from 1985 Michael J. Fox starring comedy Teen Wolf. Does it? Well, short answer, no. Long answer, no, you condescending toxic jerk, so why don't you make like a bored bonobo and just go f***? Joseph Loeb III was born in Stamford, Connecticut. He began collecting comics as a child, and his father, a vice president at Brandeis University, would introduce him to the man who would mentor him in comics writing, Elliot Maggin. Maggin was a Bronze Age DC staple who had written some of the most influential Green Lantern and Superman stories of the era, and the partnership between Maggin and Loeb actually worked both ways. Maggin taught Loeb the basics of writing for comics, and Loeb gave Maggin ideas for stories he would wind up pitching and selling to DC. Today, Loeb's comics work is so well known that it's easy to look at his work on television series like Heroes and Lost, and think of Loeb as a comics writer who made the jump to film and television. But it's actually the other way around. Loeb wouldn't begin his work in comics until 1991, when he would be recruited by DC Comics as a writer after a deal for Loeb to write a movie based on The Flash fell through. But prior to that, Loeb's professional life had been focused on television and film. He had earned a Bachelor of Arts and a master's degree in film from Columbia University, where he had studied under frequent Martin Scorsese collaborator Paul Schrader, who, among other credits, was the co-writer of Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. Loeb, in fact, debuted in film with a writing assignment for 1985's Teen Wolf. Atlantic Releasing Corporation had had an unexpected success with the Martha Coolidge-directed Valley Girl. On a budget of around $350,000, the film had managed to bring in over $13 million at the box office, so Atlantic decided it had landed on a winning formula: teen comedies made cheap and fast. They hired Jeff Loeb to write them a high-concept teen comedy that could film as cheaply as possible and shoot in less than 2 months. The result would be 1985's Teen Wolf. It came in at a budget of $1.2 million, but only took a single month to film, and it was hard to argue with the resulting $80 million box office. As with many 80s comedies starring Michael J. Fox, filming had to work around shooting for family ties, in this case taking advantage of a temporary hiatus around Meredith Baxter Birney's pregnancy. Atlantic absolutely gave directing duties for this new comedy to WKRP in Cincinnati director Rod Daniel. Teen Wolf, the story of a teenage boy who discovers that his puberty comes with the added nutshot of lycanthropy, would inspire a Hanna-Barbera animated Saturday morning cartoon, a sequel that replaced Michael J. Fox with Jason Bateman, and a third, abandoned production that would have starred Alyssa Milano. I would have loved to have seen that. And a 2011 sexy teen drama series from MTV. Born in 1987 in Chongqing, Sichuan in the People's Republic of China, Shi Zhu, now known as Domi Shi, immigrated to Canada with her parents when she was 2 years old. After a very brief stay in Newfoundland, her family would relocate to Toronto. She would grow up watching Disney and Studio Ghibli films and would receive her early instruction in art from her father, who had previously been a college professor in fine arts as well as a landscape painter. In her teenage years, Domi Shi was an avid fan of anime, even at one time acting as the president of her high school's anime fan society. She registered and shared her art on DeviantArt, which gave her contacts in the art and animation community worldwide. Communicating with artists who were working as professionals in animation inspired her to pursue a degree in animation from Sheridan University. Following a brief stint as an instructor in character design and cartooning, she picked up a 3-month internship with Pixar as a storyboard artist. In 2014, she started a webcomic called My Food Fantasies, and in 2015, she picked up her first non-internship work with Pixar as a professional storyboard artist on Inside Out. Her work on Inside Out allowed her the opportunity to pitch short ideas to Pixar, and among her pitches, she offered what would ultimately become the short film Bao. The studio greenlit Bao in 2015, and Domi Shi became the first woman to direct a short film for Pixar. In 2018, Bao debuted as a companion for Pixar's Incredibles 2, and would go on to win the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film, making her the first woman of color to ever win in that category. In 2017, a year in advance of Bao's debut, she started pitching the story concept to Pixar that would ultimately become Turning Red. The film would be officially announced in 2018, making Shi the first solo director in the studio's history, let alone its first female solo director, and she would lead the studio's first all-woman project leadership team, along with producer Lindsay Collins. The film, set in Toronto in the early 2000s, tells the story of Mei Lin, a young girl who discovers that puberty in her family comes with the added nutshot of an ancient curse that causes the women to transform into giant red pandas whenever they experience strong emotion. That sounds awfully familiar. Teen Wolf, the story of a teenage boy who discovers that his puberty comes with the added nutshot of lycanthropy. Of course it does, because when you zoom out far enough on a movie's plot, you can always accuse it of ripping off another movie. The Matrix, for instance, follows the story of an unassuming young man who learns that he has great talent and power to control the world around him and uses it to defeat an evil empire that keeps the world enslaved. Clearly a ripoff of Star Wars, right? Except the two movies are miles apart in execution. Stripping the story to such bare bones to find a comparison isn't finding evidence of skullduggery on the part of the creative team, or even finding evidence of loving tribute, so much as it's the initial steps of building a mythological framework, like Joseph Campbell did in The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Yes, both Turning Red and Teen Wolf use creature transformation as a metaphor for puberty, as did 1957's I Was a Teenage Werewolf, and any number of stories, probably in fact dating back to the very first mentions of animal transformation in the far reaches of mythology. In fact, if you're looking for a movie to compare Turning Red to, you could also look at 2000's Canadian horror film Ginger Snaps, directed by John Fawcett.
This one comes with a free calendar. Are you sure it's just cramps?
Just so you know, the words just and cramps, they don't go together.
It's nowhere near the story of Turning Red either, but it's at least as comparable as Teen Wolf, and it's a much hipper reference that doesn't make you seem like such a toxically stuck in the 80s man-child. But since Teen Wolf was brought up in comparison, sure, let's compare them. Or rather, let's contrast them, because the ways in which the stories are different tell us more about what society thinks about puberty and the different ways we treat boys and girls.
Have you forgot your...
Because both movies on some level are about turning embarrassment into acceptance, learning to be who you are. You know, similar to how human beings have to make peace with the fact that they have transitioned from childhood to adulthood and somehow managed to make sense of emotions, hormones, identity crises, and growing responsibilities, whether it's to their own humanity or to family and society on a larger scale. But when you watch the two back to back, you can't help but feel that Teen Wolf's Scott Howard is comparably playing the game on easy mode. His family is filled with fellow werewolves who all seem totally fine with being who they are. They've all gone through this process before, and they don't want him to share his identity as a werewolf publicly, but they do want him to live a normal life aside from that. But when he does expose his secret to the world, it's to great acclaim from his classmates and his community, and it even turns him into a rock star who car surfs down the street while Danny Elfman proclaims that outrageous things are going to happen to him in a great movie moment I can't share with you, because even 5 seconds of copyrighted popular music will get this video copyright claimed. One day I'll be able to share with you all of my favorite movie musicals. One day. On the other hand, Turning Red's Mei Lin's transformation is shared with the women of her family, but it is not shared as a point of pride or kinship. It's a curse, something that the family not only doesn't want getting exposed publicly, but that they have to contain and control until the day that they can perform a ceremony to lock away the beast within her forever. Scott Howard's family just wanted him to learn discipline and discretion. Mei Lin's family, including her grandmother and all of her aunties, want to keep her cooped up in a bedroom that has been stripped bare to minimize the damage she can do before they can purge her new identity for good. Scott Howard's Wolf is a rock star. Mei Lin's Red Panda can only find her popularity in the underground, where her fellow kids love her for who she is, far away from the prying eyes of parents and authority figures who have already predetermined the proper way for her to act. Even before she starts sprouting red fur, she has to be careful of how she expresses herself, or her family and the community around her are ready to let her know that as far as they're concerned, this new her just isn't her.
Oh. Oh my. What is...
not.
Huh? What?
Mom.
Oh. Huh? Mei, what is this?
It's nothing, just the boy. He's
A
no
boy?
one.
Who is he? Did he do these things to you?
No. It's just made up, Mom. It's not real.
And ultimately, I can't help but feel that Turning Red provides the healthier solution for finding your way into embracing who you are. Teen Wolf comes down in a very Reagan-era solution where you can be as bad as you like, just so long as you're a young man who can plead for forgiveness after you get through this rough phase. It's like you can have your cake and eat it too, or your Kate and Edith too, provided that Kate is the cheerleader you've been lusting after your entire life, and Edith is the girl who lives next door who understands you better than any other person. While Turning Red's solution actually relies on getting to know and accept who you are. It's about learning that being true is not the same thing as being owned, that you can be an individual and still love the people around you, and that when the night gets to be the darkest and all hope is lost, anything is possible with the power of friendship and boy band music. I think that's a great way of looking at things, and a pretty universal set of truths that Scott Howard could really have used. Thanks so much for checking out the video. If you had to turn into a giant, fluffy version of an animal every time you experience strong emotions, which animal would you pick? Drop down into the comments and let me know. As for me, I'm Team Munchkin Cat all the way, but my second choice would be a corgi. I guess I just really wish that I was the kind of animal that Walt Disney would have designed. Thanks to our Patreon patrons. If you're in a position financially to help the channel grow, hit up the Patreon, Ko-fi, or affiliate links in the description below. If you're not able to give money right now, I'm still very glad you're here with me, and I hope to see you back again soon. Make sure you hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, ring the bell so that you get notifications of new videos, and sharing the videos with your friends always helps the channel, plus sharing is caring. Until next time, watch like it means something.